I never thought I would be the kind of person who could look someone in the eye, someone I loved like a sister, and destroy them just to keep my own head above water. You always imagine villains as these mustache-twirling caricatures, people who take pleasure in the pain of others. But that's not how it happens in the real world. In the real world, the villain is just a terrified person who makes one selfish choice, then another, and then another, until there is no turning back. I am that villain. And the worst part isn't that I lost everything. The worst part is that I deserved to lose it. If you are listening to this, you probably have a best friend. Someone who knows your coffee order, your passwords, the names of the boys who broke your heart in high school. That was Chloe to me. We weren't just friends, we were a symbiotic organism. We met in the dorms during freshman year and had been inseparable ever since. 10 years later, we were working at the same high-stakes boutique marketing agency in downtown Chicago. I was the senior account manager, the talker, the face, the closer. Chloe was the creative lead, the quiet genius, the artist, the soul. It was perfect. Or at least, it was supposed to be. The truth is, my life was a house of cards. On Instagram, I was Julianne the girl boss, the woman who had it all. The corner office, the designer wardrobe, the exclusive dinner reservations. In reality, I was drowning. My credit cards were maxed out trying to maintain an image I couldn't afford. My performance at work had been slipping for months because I was too stressed to focus. I had missed targets in 2 consecutive quarters. My boss, Marcus, a man who smiled with his mouth but never his eyes, had called me into his office on a rainy Tuesday morning and given me the ultimatum that started the clock ticking on my destruction. "Julianne," he had said, tapping a silver pen against his mahogany desk. "We love your energy, but energy doesn't pay the lease. The obsession with the lifestyle is distracting you from the bottom line. You have one shot, the Vertex Tech campaign. Land it, and your partner. Miss it, and, well, let's just say we'll have to reevaluate your position here." He didn't need to spell it out. I was on the chopping block. Vertex Tech was the biggest contract in the city. Landing them meant a 6-figure bonus and job security. Losing them meant unemployment, bankruptcy, and the total humiliation of admitting to everyone that I wasn't the success story I pretended to be. I went home that night in a panic. I sat on the beige sofa in the apartment I shared with Chloe, staring at the blank screen of my laptop. I had nothing. My creative well was dry. Panic is a funny thing. It doesn't make you work harder. It freezes you. I was paralyzed. Then Chloe walked in. She looked tired, her hair in a messy bun, paint smudges on her jeans. She worked harder than anyone I knew, but she hated the spotlight. She saw me hyperventilating on the couch and immediately went into fix-it mode. She ordered takeout, poured me a glass of wine, and sat down next to me. "Jules, breathe," she said, rubbing my back. "It's just a pitch. We've done a million of these." "Not like this," I sobbed. "If I don't nail this, Marcus is going to fire me. And if I get fired, I lose the apartment, I lose the car, I lose everything, Chloe." She looked at me with those big, empathetic eyes. She didn't know about my debt. She didn't know how deep the hole was. She just saw her best friend in pain. "Okay," she said softly. "Then we make sure you don't fail. I've been toying with some ideas for Vertex. It's a little avant-garde, maybe too risky for the standard pitch, but let me show you." She pulled out her iPad. I watched as she swiped through a presentation she had been working on in her spare time. It was breathtaking. It wasn't just a marketing campaign, it was a cultural movement. It focused on human connection in a digital age, using a visual style that was completely unique. It was brilliant. It was a guaranteed win. "This is incredible," I whispered. "You think?" she asked, biting her lip. I was too scared to show Marcus. You know how I get in meetings, I freeze up, I was going to trash it. "No," I said, my heart pounding. Not with excitement, but with the first stirrings of the dark plan forming in my mind. We can't trash this. This is the answer. Maybe we can pitch it together, she suggested. I can do the visuals, you do the talking. Of course, I lied. We'll do it together. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the anxiety of my debt gnawing at my stomach. Sharing the credit wasn't enough. If we pitched it together, Chloe would be the star. Marcus would see that the genius came from her, not me. I would just be the mouthpiece. I needed to prove my worth. I needed to be the one who saved the agency. The next morning, Chloe left early for a dentist appointment. Her iPad was sitting on the kitchen counter. I walked over to it. My hand trembled as I typed in her passcode, 0824, her mother's birthday. I knew everything about her. I opened the file. I airdropped the entire presentation to my own laptop. Then, I did something that makes me sick to remember. I deleted the file from her iPad. Then I went into her cloud backup and deleted it there too. I wiped her work from existence, leaving only my copy. I told myself I was just borrowing it. I told myself I would make it up to her later. I told myself that she was too shy to ever really succeed anyway, so I was doing the work for her. The lies we tell ourselves to sleep at night are the most creative fiction of all. I went into the office 3 hours early. I reformatted the slides. I changed the color palette slightly. I put my name, and only my name, on the title slide, Vertex Strategy, created by Julianne Moore. At 10 a.m., the Vertex executives arrived. Marcus was there, looking nervous. Chloe was still at the dentist. She wasn't due in until noon. This was my window. I stood up in the boardroom. I didn't stumble. I didn't stutter. I presented Chloe's heart and soul as if it were my own. I used her metaphors, her logic, her emotional hooks. I saw the Vertex CEO, a stern woman named Mrs. Galloway, lean forward. I saw Marcus's jaw drop. By the time I finished, the room was silent. Then Mrs. Galloway started clapping. That, she said, is exactly what we've been looking for. It's visionary, Julianne. Truly visionary. Marcus beamed at me, the threat of firing replaced by the glow of greed. I knew she had it in her, he said. I walked out of that meeting floating on a cloud of adrenaline. I had done it. I was safe. Then I went back to my desk, and I saw Chloe walking in. She looked happy, oblivious. She sat down at her desk across from mine and opened her iPad. I watched her face. First, confusion. She tapped the screen. Then, frustration. She checked the Wi-Fi. Then, panic. She started typing rapidly, checking folders. The blood drained from her face. Jules, she said, her voice trembling. My files, the Vertex files, they're gone. I forced myself to look surprised. What? What do you mean gone? They're gone. Everything. The backups, the cloud, everything. I don't know. Did I sync it wrong? Did I get hacked? She was hyperventilating now. I stood up and walked over to her. I put my hand on her shoulder, the hand of the traitor. Oh my God, Chloe, that's terrible. Are you sure? I'm sure. I can't find them. She was crying now. I wanted to show Marcus today. I wanted to help you. And here is where the betrayal went from bad to unforgivable. I could have just stayed silent. I could have let her think it was a technical glitch, but I was greedy. I needed to ensure she couldn't challenge me. Chloe, I said, dropping my voice to a whisper. Maybe it's for the best. She looked at me, tears in her eyes. What? I didn't want to tell you this, I lied, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. But Marcus saw you working on it yesterday over my shoulder. He told me it looked derivative. He said it looked like a rip-off of a campaign from 2018. He told me to tell you to scrap it. It was a devastating lie. Chloe's biggest insecurity was her originality. I struck her exactly where I knew she was weak. He He said that? She whispered. I tried to defend you, I said, squeezing her shoulder. But you know how he is. I came up with something else last night. A backup plan. I pitched it this morning. We got the account. She looked at me, stunned. You pitched without me? I had to, I said, feigning desperation. The clients were here early. I couldn't wait. I did it to save us, Chloe, to save the team. She slumped back in her chair. She looked small, defeated. Oh, okay. Well, congratulations, Jules. I'm glad one of us is good enough. I felt a sharp pang of guilt, but I shoved it down. I bought us champagne that night. I paid for dinner. I told myself I was a good friend because I was sharing the rewards. But secrets have a way of rotting things from the inside out. 3 weeks later, the fallout began. Because I had stolen the idea, I didn't truly understand the mechanics of it. The campaign required complex graphic execution that only Chloe could do, but I couldn't ask her for help, because then she would recognize her own work, so I had to hire freelancers. I had to manage it poorly. The project started to wobble. Marcus noticed. Julianne, why does the art direction look different from the pitch deck? The pitch deck was genius. This looks generic. I'm refining it, I stammered. Well, refine it faster, he snapped. To cover my tracks, I needed a scapegoat for the delays. And who was the most convenient scapegoat? Chloe. I started planting seeds. I told Marcus that Chloe was being difficult, that she was jealous of my success with the Vertex account and was refusing to prioritize my requests. I told him she was checking out mentally. It was a preemptive strike. I knew that if Chloe ever saw the final Vertex campaign, she would know I stole it. I needed her gone before the launch. I am a monster. I know this. One Friday afternoon, Marcus called Chloe into his office. I sat at my desk, wearing my noise-canceling headphones, pretending I couldn't hear the muffled sounds of her crying through the glass. 10 minutes later, Chloe walked out. She was holding a box with her plants and her mug. She stopped at my desk. Her eyes were red, but her expression wasn't sad anymore. It was confusing. It was piercing. He fired me, she said quietly. He said I wasn't a cultural fit anymore. He said you told him I was holding the team back. I stood up, my palms sweating. Chloe, I never said that. He's twisting my words. You know how corporate politics are. She looked at me for a long time. It was the longest 10 seconds of my life. It felt like she was reading the code of my soul. I always defended you, Jules, she said softly. Even when people said you were all style and no substance, I always said you had a good heart. I guess I was the one with no vision. She walked out. She didn't slam the door. She just left. I tried to call her that night, blocked. I went to the apartment. Her stuff was gone. She had moved out in the span of 4 hours. She left her key on the counter. No note. I was alone, but I was also a partner. I got the promotion. I got the raise. I paid off my debts. I bought a new wardrobe. I told everyone that Chloe had a breakdown and moved back to Ohio to live with her parents. I controlled the narrative. For 6 months, I lived the high life. The guilt was there, a low hum in the back of my mind, but champagne drowns out a lot of noise. I thought I had gotten away with it, but the universe keeps a ledger, and my bill was coming due. It started subtly. We were preparing for the Phase 2 launch of Vertex. It was a massive event, a gala with press, influencers, and industry titans. I was the star of the show. 2 weeks before the gala, we received news that a new boutique agency, Eidetic, had snatched up 3 of our mid-sized clients in a single week. We didn't think much of it. Clients move around. Then Marcus called an emergency meeting. Eidetic just put in a bid for the global Vertex account, he said, his face pale. What? I laughed. We have a contract. And who is Eidetic? I've never heard of them. They're new, underground. But their portfolio is disturbing. Marcus said. He threw a dossier on the table. I opened it. My blood ran cold. The style, the visuals, the emotional intelligence. It was Chloe. It wasn't her name on the masthead. The owner was listed as C.R. Evans, but I knew that brushstroke. I knew that font pairing. It's just a copycat, I said, my voice shaking. They're trying to ride our wave. They're not riding it, Julianne, Marcus snapped. They're building a tsunami. They have a meeting with Mrs. Galloway tomorrow. You need to be there, and you need to shut this down. The meeting was a disaster. I walked into the Vertex conference room, confident, ready to charm, and there, sitting next to Mrs. Galloway, was Chloe. But it wasn't the Chloe I knew. The messy bun was gone, replaced by a sleek, sharp bob. The paint-stained jeans were replaced by a tailored power suit that cost more than my car. She didn't look down when I entered. She looked right at me and she smiled. A cold, professional smile. Julianne, she said. Her voice was steady. Good to see you. Chloe? I choked out. I didn't know you were with Eidetic. I am Eidetic, she said. Mrs. Galloway cleared her throat. Chloe has been showing us some concerning data, Julianne. She suggests that the campaign you launched, the one you claimed was your original creation, is actually built on a foundation that, well, isn't sustainable for our long-term growth. She has a counter-proposal. I tried to pivot. Mrs. Galloway, with all due respect, Chloe is a disgruntled former employee. She was fired for incompetence. Anything she presents is just sour grapes. I looked at Chloe, daring her to crack, daring her to cry. She didn't blink. She just tapped her tablet. The screen on the wall lit up. I'm not here to talk about the past, Julianne, Chloe said smoothly. I'm here to talk about the future. Your campaign focused on connection. It was a good start, but you missed the data integration. You built a pretty picture, but you didn't build a pipe. Look at the metrics from the last quarter. Engagement is down 15%. Why? Because the authenticity is missing. She proceeded to dismantle my work, not with insults, but with math, with better art, with a strategy so superior that I looked like a child playing with crayons. She wasn't just exposing my incompetence, she was highlighting the exact void she had left when I forced her out. Mrs. Galloway looked at me. Julianne, do you have a rebuttal? How do you plan to fix the engagement drop? I froze. I didn't know how to fix it because I hadn't created it. I had stolen a snapshot, but I didn't own the camera. We are analyzing the data, I stammered. We have a team working on it. Chloe has a solution ready to deploy today, Mrs. Galloway said. She looked at Marcus, then at me. The warmth was gone from her eyes. We didn't lose the account that day, but we were put on probation. Vertex gave us 1 month to prove we could match Eidetic's vision. If not, they were walking. I walked out of that building shaking. Chloe was waiting for me by the elevators. Why are you doing this? I hissed. You want to ruin me? She looked at me with that same calm expression. I'm not doing anything to you, Jules. I'm just doing my job. You wanted to be the boss, right? You wanted the pressure. Well, this is the pressure. Can you handle it? I know I hurt you, I said, my voice cracking. But we were friends. Friends don't steal, she said simply. And friends don't gaslight. You didn't just take my work, Julianne. You made me doubt my own sanity. You made me think I was worthless so you could feel powerful. That's not friendship. That's predation. I can fix this, I pleaded. Come back. We can work together again. I'll get Marcus to rehire you. I'll give you a raise. She laughed. It was a dark, dry sound. I don't want a job, Jules. I have my own company, and frankly, I don't think you can afford me anymore. She stepped into the elevator and the doors closed. The next 2 weeks were a nightmare. I was working 18-hour days, whipping my team, trying to come up with something that could beat Chloe. But everything I produced felt hollow. I was second-guessing every decision. The imposter syndrome was no longer a syndrome. It was my reality. Then, I got desperate. I knew Chloe's old passwords. I knew she often used the same variations. I thought, if I could just get into her eidetic email server, I could see what she was planning for the final showdown. I could steal it again. It worked once. It could work again. I stayed late at the office. I used a VPN. I tried her old password, Blue Velvet 88. Access denied. I tried another, Chloe 0824. Access denied. I tried one more, the name of our old goldfish, Bubbles 2015. Access granted. My heart leaped. I was in. I scrolled frantically through her drafts. I found a folder marked Vertex Final Phase Confidential. I opened it. It was a video file, a mock-up of a new commercial. I watched it. It was shocking. It was provocative. It used a controversial political angle that was risky, but if it worked, it would be viral gold. It was exactly the kind of edgy thing Mrs. Galloway secretly loved. I downloaded it. I didn't just steal the idea this time, I stole the exact concept. I spent the next 3 days recreating it with my team, telling them it was a sudden stroke of inspiration I had in the shower. We filmed it. We edited it. We polished it until it gleamed. The day of the final presentation arrived. The gala pitch. It was in a ballroom, hundreds of people. Mrs. Galloway was front and center. Chloe went first. She presented a beautiful, safe, heartfelt campaign about community gardens. It was nice, but it wasn't explosive. I sat there smirking. She lost her nerve, I thought. She went safe. I went bold. It was my turn. I walked onto the stage. I hooked up my laptop. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, beaming, "Vertex is about disruption, and today we are going to disrupt the narrative." I hit play. The video started. The audience watched, but about 30 seconds in, the murmuring started. Then, gasps. The video, the one I had recreated from Chloe's folder, wasn't just controversial. It was offensive. It featured imagery that, in the context of the full screen, looked incredibly insensitive to a current global crisis that had broken out just 2 days prior. Wait. When I watched it on my laptop, it seemed edgy, but up here on the big screen with the new context of the news, it looked like hate speech. I froze. I tried to stop the video, but the remote jammed. The video kept playing. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the horrific audio of my edgy commercial. Mrs. Galloway stood up. Her face was purple with rage. "Turn it off!" she screamed. "Turn it off right now!" Someone cut the power. The screen went black. I stood there in the darkness, the spotlight blinding me. I looked into the crowd. I saw Marcus with his head in his hands. I saw the press typing furiously on their phones. And then I saw Chloe. She was sitting at her table, sipping water. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't gloating. She was just watching. And then I realized the folder, the password, Bubbles 2015. It was an old password, a weak password, one she knew I would remember. She hadn't secured her server poorly. She had left the door unlocked. She had planted that file. She knew I would try to hack her. She knew I would steal again. She knew I didn't have the moral compass or the contextual awareness to realize the idea was a trap. She fed me poison, and I swallowed it whole, convinced it was wine. It was a setup. A Trojan horse designed specifically for my greed. Security came to escort me off the stage. Marcus fired me before I even stepped off the podium. He literally took my badge as I walked down the stairs. "You're done," he hissed. "You've destroyed this agency's reputation in 5 minutes. Get out!" I walked through the crowd, a pariah. People actually moved away from me as if failure was contagious. I reached the exit doors. Chloe was there again. "You knew," I whispered, tears streaming down my face, ruining my makeup. "You set me up." "I didn't make you steal it, Jules," she said calmly. "I didn't make you hack my server. I didn't make you present it without vetting it. You did all of that yourself. All I did was leave a file on a drive. You were the one who decided to be a thief. I've lost everything, I sobbed. No, she corrected. You lost the things you stole. There's a difference. She turned and walked back into the ballroom. The doors swung shut, muffling the sound of the applause that was starting up again. Applause, presumably, for her. That was 6 months ago. Today, I work as a junior copywriter for a catalog company in the suburbs. I make a third of what I used to. I live in a studio apartment that smells like damp carpet. I don't have an Instagram anymore. I follow Eidetic in the news, though. They just won Ad Agency of the Year. Chloe was on the cover of Ad Week. She looked beautiful. She looked free. Sometimes, late at night, I think about reaching out, apologizing, asking for forgiveness. But then I remember the look in her eyes at the gala. It wasn't hatred. It was indifference. She had moved on. She had excised the cancer from her life, and she healed. I am the cancer. I learned the hard way that you can cheat your way to the top, but you cannot cheat the fall. Gravity always wins. And the truth? It doesn't need a marketing campaign. It just needs time. So, if you're listening to this, and you're thinking about taking a shortcut, if you're thinking about betraying someone who trusts you just to save your own skin, don't. Because the person you betray might be the only one holding the net that catches you when you fall. And once you cut those strings, you are falling forever. I'm Julianne, and this is my confession.